We open to find Harry Kim in bed, with maybe Dream, maybe not Janeway trying to contact him, and saying something about emergency teleporting him from a shuttle. Then he wakes up, gasp, next to a woman, gasp, on Earth, double gasp. Kim seems surprised by finding himself where he is. True to form though, he meekly lets himself be pushed around by Libby, the lady he woke up next to. She shoves him in the bathroom, after talking about him going to an important meeting. He emerges dressed as the Kim we know, and inquires about the date. Surprising both him and me, it's not a memory, but the current date. He runs through the possibilities and seemingly settles on having been kidnapped or encountering an alien species, then identifies himself to Libby, who takes issue with him saying he's from Voyager because the memorial for them only happened a little while back. Then she gets tired of his shit and tells him to go to work. He emerges onto a street and is accosted by a man who thrusts coffee at him before asking about the new ship Kim is designing. Kim asks him how long he's been coming here for coffee and is told about 8 months, presumably meaning he was never posted to Voyager. Oh, and Libby is his fiancée. Another guy accosts him, ignores his protests about not feeling well, and drags him to the subway that apparently humans still use for some reason. We attend a meeting with some old people, which presumably implies that they're important. Accosting Guy 2 goes into a sales pitch about a new type of runabout, which the internet tells me is just a chubby shuttle, so I'm damned if I'm going to carry on making a distinction between the two. One of the important people asks about a science thing, and accosting Guy 2 hands the question over to Kim, who knows nothing about it on account of only waking up in this life a few hours ago. He says he's ill, to the upset of all concerned, and everybody fucks off. Harry goes to what I presume is his office, looks at some things that aren't his but are, then stares wistfully at a photo of him and Libby. When he's done moping, he reads his own biography to discover his request to join Voyager was denied. Instead, he joined the engineering corps, where it seems he's actually quite good, so I guess we're in the better timeline here. He uses the access codes he was given in the shitty timeline to look at restricted data on Voyager, which has got to have been logged somewhere unless security is treated with the same disdain as holodeck reliability, and discovers his mate Danny is on Voyager instead of him. He returns home after asking a accosting Guy with coffee where he lives, and dances around explaining the situation to Libby. Then they have some implied sexy times. Later, he reads up on Voyager while Libby is sleeping. Checking the crew manifest in more detail, he notices that Tom Paris isn't mentioned before Libby wakes up and asks him what's going on. He tries to lie but fails, so tells her everything. Well, most of it. I don't imagine he told her about Sexy Wind Girl from Season 1 Episode 10, but I'll admit it's not really the right time for that. She reacts about as well as you'd expect and tells him to see a doctor. He says he will just as soon as he goes to Marseille to see Paris, and the writers get a point here for a bit of silly wordplay. Kim goes to the pub that Paris based the holographic version on, and Paris is rude to him because even alternate reality Tom Paris is a dick. He explains that he never made it to Voyager after getting arrested on Deep Space Nine for starting a bar fight. Kim tries to explain to Paris that this isn't his reality, which is an optimistic play to use on a cynical shit who's also half drunk, and he says he needs Paris to help him figure it out. That goes terribly and they have a bit of a scuffle, then Kim buggers off. Before we leave though, the camera pans to reveal accosting Guy with coffee, proving that, like lunch, there's no such thing as a free drink. Kim returns home to find some security dudes and accosting Guy too. They tracked him accessing secured files, called it, and they all trot off to Starfleet HQ. He's interviewed by the guy from the last meeting, which is odd given that he said he was shipping out for 3 weeks when that ended, and they try to get Kim's story straight. The interview isn't helped when they find out he went to see a traitor to ask for help, and, to be fair, they have a point. They suspect him of being a marquee spy, but let him go with a tracking anklet, because treason is viewed as casually as antisocial behaviour these days, it seems, something I'd have struggled to believe had I not lived through certain recent political events. On the way home, he's accosted again by accosting Guy with coffee, who promptly reveals he's a time alien and he's been watching Kim. He says the shuttle Kim was in crashed into one of their special time motorways and buggered things up a bit. Oh, and they can't get him back because the results of smashing a ship into their time motorways are a bit random, so, why not fuck all that off and stay here? Kim doesn't think that seems fair on either Danny, who's on Voyager instead of him, or Paris, who I don't care about. Accosting Guy with coffee relents and gives him a special shiny pog that he says will show him the nearest on-ramp for the time motorway. Which seems pretty fucking reckless given the chance it might erase all of history, but sure, yeah, why not? Back home, he's fiddling with his anklet when Libby interrupts. She's pissed that he's trying to leave. He explains that if he stayed, he'd be the pathetic twat version of Harry Kim. I get that we're trying to build up that he's a hero deep down, that he's willing to do what he thinks is right no matter the personal cost, but the problem is that the cost won't just be his. It's been explained to him in detail that arsing around with the timeline could have massive and unpredictable implications. Rolling the dice anyway doesn't seem heroic in these circumstances. It seems arrogant and egotistical. Even if this whole thing is a setup or a test, he doesn't know that, so the judgment still stands. After all of my requests for backstory, I'm left in the odd position that learning more about this character has made me respect him considerably less. But again, I digress. While they're having their chat, the temper alarm on his anklet goes off and some security dudes teleport in. Kim legs it out of the window, then Libby stands in front of it, forming a clearly impenetrable barrier against two armed and trained security operatives. So they go round and start jumping out of other apartments, rather than, just teleporting Kim to a holding cell using either his comm badge or that tracking anklet to get a lock on him. Kim knocks one guy down and runs from the other, who chases after him rather than pooping yellow. He tackles Kim and pulls him to the ground, but is then twatted by Paris, and they both scarper together. Paris explains that he tracked Kim through friends in Starfleet, which, yeah, okay then. At least you acknowledge the potential plot hole. Then he pulls out a gizmo to teleport into Kim's office so they can steal the shuttle and ram a time motorway. Security's onto them almost immediately, which is far more competent than we've seen thus far, and some guys turn up to poop yellow at Paris and Kim. Kim's already finished accessing the shuttle though, so they teleport over. They manage to nick it, but another ship starts pooping yellow at them on the way to the time motorway. They fart some white back at it, which apparently works, but they're in bad shape. They try to smash into the time motorway, but it doesn't work. Then Kim remembers the teleporter thing that Janeway mentioned at the start and does that too. The shuttle kabooms, killing Paris. It's worked though, and Kim is back on the shuttle that he first smashed into the time motorway with. They teleport him off just as it's going kaboom, then he thanks Paris for his drunk doppelganger dying, and they fly away. End of episode.